Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to call this committee a whole meeting to order for June the 16th. Again, acknowledging that our meeting is being held in the traditional territory of our friends and our neighbors, our Treaty 8 partners of the Fort Nelson First Nation, as well as the Prophet River First Nation. We recognize our treaty, we recognize the rights within that treaty, and we celebrate the contributions and enduring presence of the Métis people in our region. Please be advised that this afternoon's meeting is available to the public to attend virtually and is being streamed and recorded. So outstanding business to get right into the agenda is sustainable service levels. So protective services, I think, is the department that we're reviewing today. So I will turn it over to staff and Chief Childs.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So just wait for the slide to come up. So protective services represents one of the municipality's most visible, essential, and trusted services. While residents often see us responding during emergencies, much of our work takes place long before an incident occurs. Through fire prevention, fire smart programs, emergency preparedness, public education, inspections, bylaw enforcement, firefighter training, wildfire mitigation, and community safety initiatives. We work every day to reduce risk and protect lives, property, and the environment. Our role extends far beyond emergency response. We help build a safer, more resilient community by preventing emergencies whenever possible to ensure we are prepared when they do occur. Today's presentation will provide Council with an overview of services currently being delivered, the service levels our residents expect, the resources required to sustain these services, and the opportunities and challenges we face meeting the growing needs of our community into the future. Every dollar invested in protective services not only supports emergency response capabilities, but also reduces risk through prevention, preparedness, and resilience building efforts to help safeguard our community long before 911 is ever made. So you see by the first slide there, today's presentation is a part of the sustainable service delivery process focused on protective services. The goal is to clearly outline what services are being provided, what level of service Council has established or is supporting, who benefits from this service, how these services are funded, and what the long-term pressures and sustainability challenges exist. Protective services are a core municipal responsibility tied directly to public safety and community resilience. These services support residents, the visitors, industry, transportation corridors, and regional emergency response. This presentation is intended to support long-term planning and sustainable service delivery discussions. So you see by this slide here, Council establishes the level of service and administration delivers that service within the resources provided. So we provide fire rescue services, first responder and medical response services, highway rescue, bylaw enforcement, animal control, and 911 dispatch services. We go to slide 3. So protective service under fire. So in slide 4, we're going to talk about fire services. It's important to understand that our service is built around 3 key functions. You have fire operations, fire prevention, and fire training. Operations are the emergency services that public sees when they do call 911, including fire suppression, any rescue calls, wildfire response, emergency management, and medical response. Fire prevention focuses on reducing emergencies before they occur through inspections, public education, fire investigations, and wildfire mitigation initiatives. And our training supports both operations and prevention by ensuring firefighters maintain the skills, the certifications, and the competencies required to safely deliver these services. So the following slides are going to break down each of these areas in more detail. So slide 5, which is that one. Okay, so in slide 5, we're going to talk about the fire operations part. So operations is the emergency response side of the fire department. This is where we provide direct services to the public during emergencies and disasters. Our primary operational mandate is to protect the life, protect property, and the environment. Fire suppression remains one of our highest priorities and core service. We provide emergency response to structure fires, vehicle fires, airport crash rescue, wildland fires, and all industrial incidents. We respond to a bunch of different types of rescue incidents, including motor vehicle collisions, highway rescue, and technical rescue situations such as confined space, water rescue, and rope rescue. We support emergency medical incidents through our first responder program, and we provide wildfire and interface response to protect homes, businesses, and critical infrastructure. The department supports emergency management and disaster planning before and during significant events, and we maintain emergency communication capabilities to ensure responders can be dispatched and coordinated efficiently. All emergency services are delivered by 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through a combination of career and paid on-call firefighters. The fire department plays a significant role in emergency management within the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality. During major events such as wildfires, evacuations, severe weather events, or other disasters, fire services provide operational leadership, resource coordination, and support to the Emergency Operations Center. On slide 6, so this slide, you can see there, it features Angel. Angel is a fire investigation canine from the Office of the Fire Commissioner. Angel and her handler, Brad, came to Fort Nelson probably a week or 2 weeks after everybody returned to town from the Parker Lake fire. During that time, we broke out into a large drug war, and we were dealing with a lot of structure fires and arson fires. So I made a request to the Fire Commissioner's office requesting assistance because I couldn't keep up to the investigations. So they sent me Angel and Brad, and we investigated a large amount of structure fires, vehicle fires throughout a full week. They were here with me. So that's Angel taking a nap in between. I think that was our second or third fire investigation that day, and it was super hot out. So she was in back of my truck just chilling, waiting to go back to work. While emergency response is what most people associate the fire department with, fire prevention is focused on reducing the likelihood of impact of emergencies before they occur. Fire prevention helps protect the lives, property, environment by identifying and reducing risk before emergency occurs. A fire prevented is often the most effective emergency response we can provide. Prevention activities help reduce fire loss, injuries, and demands on emergency services. Through building and fire inspections, we conduct inspections to identify fire and life safety concerns. Inspections help ensure compliance with the BC Fire Code and the BC Building Code. This work helps support businesses, institutions, and residents in maintaining safe buildings. Wildfire mitigation continues to be an important priority of our community. Activities include fire smart education, fuel reduction initiatives, and public awareness programs. The goal is to reduce wildfire risk to homes, businesses, and critical infrastructure. Through public education and awareness, this helps residents understand fire safety, emergency preparedness, and wildfire risk reduction. Community awareness programs are one of the most cost-effective tools in reducing preventable emergencies. Education initiatives help create a safer and more resilient community. Fire prevention is an investment in the community safety. Every fire prevented, every hazard corrected, and every resident better prepared helps reduce and lessens the impact on emergency response resources. In a large rural and remote community like Northern Rockies, prevention is particularly important because emergencies can occur far from other resources. We're all on our own. We have no mutual aid coming to help us. So it's important to reduce risk before an incident occurs, and is most effective way to protect our residents and our infrastructure. If you turn to slide 7, slide 7 is a scope of service for fire training. So to deliver both emergency response and prevention services effectively, firefighters must maintain a significant level of training and competency, which is the focus of this next section. Training is the foundation that allows us to safely and effectively deliver services discussed so far. Without ongoing training, we cannot maintain operational readiness, we cannot meet the regulatory requirements, or safely respond to emergencies. Firefighters operate in the high-risk and rapidly changing environments. Training ensures members can perform their duties safely and effectively. It reduces risk to firefighters, the public, and the municipality. Every service we provide relies on training and a competent personnel. Many certifications are required under provincial standards and industry best practices. Firefighters must continually maintain and upgrade their skills through their careers. Training requirements continue to increase as emergency response becomes more complex. In 2025, the department completed approximately 2,700 hours of training. Each week, we average around 52 hours dedicated to training of our personnel. This includes classroom instruction.
Chief,
Sorry.
question.
Yeah, is there a physical requirement for firefighters? Like, is there an annual level of fitness test that has to be passed or?
So for Northern Rockies Fire Rescue, there's never been a physical fitness test. We are looking at changing that here in the near future to now that we have the ability to have a full functioning gym at our new station. That gives us the ability to for crews to effectively work out on shift and after shift and stuff like that. It is something we've been in talks with the union on creating some type of a physical standard for the department. So it is slowly going into the works.
Thank you.
Is that something that's done in other departments? Is that standard practice?
A lot of citywide professional fire departments do want a current CPAT test, which is a physical fitness standard test for recruits, for people applying for the job. Some volunteer departments also have that standard, like an in-house standard. We're not gonna follow the CPAT standard. We're gonna create our own little Northern Rockies standard and it's not just for new recruits, but everybody who is working the job today, just to make sure that they're physically fit and that stuff like that. We do run a health and wellness program in our department. We're constantly upgrading it, but we do resting vitals on all of our firefighters. So we know what everybody's resting vitals are before an emergency. So when we do attend an emergency, we can test those vitals against what the resting rate is. So we know how long it takes them to rehab. We've been running that program probably for at least 5 years now or longer. And it's caught a lot of medical emergencies that some of our firefighters had that they had to go out and go see specialists for and stuff like that. So that's helping us out quite a bit in that way. But yeah, we are working on developing a in-house physical fitness standard as well.
Question over here from Councilor Roper.
Would that involve possibly giving members access to, say, gym equipment or fitness programs as well?
Yeah, so with the new fire hall, we have a full gym right now that's full of physical fitness equipment. It's a nice gym, it's a nice size. Members can work out when they're on shift, on days off, as a crew. So it's open to all firefighters. We also share it with the RCMP. We opened it to the RCMP members, so their members will come down and work out with the guys on shift or after hours and stuff like that. So,
thank you. I think it's good to acknowledge that the RCMP provided some equipment.
Yeah.
As part of that process, so it's a good little joint piece there. So it gives more equipment for the both departments to use, but.
Yep.
Well, it builds camaraderie too between the two groups, right?
It does. It helps.
You don't just see each other on the road when there's in a fan. You can joke and push each other and yeah. No,
I agree. We're also looking at maybe once a month do a physical fitness challenge, fire versus RCMP in the station there. So we're looking at developing that so we can compete against each other and just make it more fun.
Okay.
So when it comes to firefighter training, we do classroom instruction, we do practical exercises, we do live fire evolutions, rescue scenarios, driver training, inspections, investigations, wildfire medical response training. Training occurs daily to ensure skills remain current and operationally effective. Training is not only an optional activity, it is the core service requirement that establishes the department to respond safely, meet legislative and operational requirements, and provide the level of service council expects. When residents call 911, they expect a professional and competent response. Thousands of hours spent training each year are what make that response possible. We move to slide 8. So we are a full service department. Council establishes the level of service and the department delivers that level of service. So the current level of service for Northern Rocks Fire Rescue is a full service fire department level. We provide interior and exterior firefighting, wildland and interface firefighting capabilities. Emergency response is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Service levels are determined by regulatory requirements, municipal bylaws, industry standards, and available staffing resources. Under our current service model, the department has the operational capacity to effectively manage up to 2 concurrent structure fires at the same time, while maintaining emergency response capabilities for other incidents. During evening periods, when staffing is reduced to a single firefighter on duty, responding to a medical call typically requires recalling additional personnel, resulting in overtime costs. Maintaining this level of service requires ongoing investment in people, equipment, and training. All of our firefighters are trained to the NFPA 1001 Level 1 and 2 standard. We must meet the BC Fire Service Competency and Training Playbook standards, fire service bylaws, Office of the Fire Commissioner, the BC codes, and WorkSafe BC. Our department is comprised of a fire chief, 2 deputy chiefs, and 6 career firefighters. And at this moment, we have 20 paid on call firefighters. So our paid on call ranks have climbed quite a bit over the year. We've been really educating the high school and getting the younger adults involved in the fire service, and it's been working out great with us. We've been working on that for probably 5 years or longer, and our last recruit class was 11 firefighters, so that was the biggest we ever ran. So we hope that continues. And we move to slide 9. Who benefits from this service? A direct benefit is the residents, the business and industry, municipal facilities, visitors within our service area. Indirect benefits are neighboring communities, regional emergency response partners, and overall community safety and resilience. If you look at the picture there, that's a current picture of our fire service protection area. So as you can see, we just go past mile 312 at Gross Trail, and we do all the subdivision up in Gross Trail. We do all Radar Road and Radar Crescent. We do a partial of the McConaughey Creek. We do out past the airport. We do the Fort Nelson First Nations, and we go to Apache Road south of town, just past the Terra Vita Dirty Dirt area there. So everything in the gold or yellow there is our fire protection area. Slide 10, how are these services funded? Through general taxation, industrial tax revenues, grants and external funding, reserve contributions for equipment and apparatus. What that funding supports is staffing and operations, training and compliance, equipment and apparatus, facility maintenance, and long-term asset replacement. So as you can see there, the general levy is 2.59. Our fire levy, the taxes we bring in, is 599,000. The grants for this year we went after is 29,000, and that's to help offset extra PPE for our firefighters.
What's the 35,000 fire represent?
I want to say that is Fort Nelson First Nations contribution to the fire protection we provide on the reserve. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, the next slide is more of a breakdown. Shows our grants, the fire levy, invest income, IDC contributions, and general tax levy. As you can see there, the majority of our budget is all tied to general tax.
So on the finances, when we bill back the province for emergency calls or whatever, is that under the 35,000 or?
So that's in the motor vehicle section, but I
Oh, okay.
can, no, we can review it right quick.
That's good.
So every year we roughly budget around $20,000 that we expect to get back from the province. Just for highway rescues, that's it. I can't tell you exactly where that goes once it hits the town because we submit the bill. And then whatever they approve it and then they send whatever they're paying us for that call back to the municipality. I don't know exactly where it goes into the.
It'll go into our revenue.
Yeah.
We'll receive it as a revenue and attach it to that. We budget 20 because we don't know what.
Yeah.
The amount would be.
Yeah.
Chief will go into a bit more detail when we get in that section.
Yeah, I don't
But
mean
it's,
to.
it's a good dialogue because there's some other options, because frankly, it doesn't reimburse the cost of
No.
providing the service.
It probably not even pays for half of the service, like highway rescue.
Yeah, those are the tough conversations I
Yeah.
think we're gonna have to have.
Yep.
I have a question about. Thank you. I have a question about the fire levy. So I recognize that that's what we levy it for, but what are the rules around it? Is like $600,000 like a max? What is that?
Something that's.
So I mean, that's what we're here talking about, right? Is
Part of-
services and how we pay for services. So
Yeah, because
help me to understand that that's all we're levying for fire when out of general, it's coming from.
it's similar to other discussions in terms of this is a reason for having these discussions. This next steps as part of this process would be to have discussions around increasing that fire levy and what the impacts are. Essentially, it's a number that's put in place to say this is what we would levy, and it's spread out amongst the residents that are within the fire services area. And then that formula also, it's part of the determining what we would charge for our services at Port Nelson First Nation. So part of this in the new fire bylaw and whatnot, all this stuff is on the review and bring back because again, this is a conversation we'd have with council in terms of how we levy, what we would levy and what would be reasonable. Because that is not a maximum, it's too low.
Well,
Or it's
especially,
extremely low.
yeah, especially if the general tax levy is 2,159,000. I know it's coming out of the same pockets. I get that it's coming out of the same pockets. But I just am wondering, has that been council decision in the past that the fire levy is, well, what would it be percentage wise? 1/5 of the total costs as opposed to it carrying the costs, and people know that that's what they're paying for fire. They're paying for it both ways. But they don't know that if they think the fire levy is 600,000 and they think that's all they're paying for, then all of a sudden when you adjust this, there's a cry, right? When really we're paying for it now to the tune of
It's a similar.
$3.1 million.
Yeah, it's similar to, I mean, I'll pick on water because it's a water service area, right? So there'll be water, there's fees associated, because this is the fee that the residents that receive the fire service specifically pay.
Yeah.
It's right now sitting at $5.99, right? And then the remainder, the gap, outside of some grants and whatnot, is being picked up by the general taxation. And it's a similar discussion when we talk water, right? It's the fees are X and a significant portion is being picked up by general taxation by residents essentially outside of the service area that don't.
Or by taxpayers.
Taxpayers.
Not necessarily.
Sorry, taxpayers don't benefit from the service. Yes. So the balance here, again, the reason for going through this process, quite frankly, is this is where it sits. And then it's the next step is bringing information back to say, here's what we recommend these numbers to be at, and getting that council direction, say, where do you want that balance to be, and having that discussion.
Right. And then with respect to the Port Nelson First Nation, is that a negotiated thing or is it already somewhere that it's a percentage of the fire levy?
It's a bit of both. There's a negotiation, but we have to justify the piece. And I mean, Jay might be able to speak a little bit more to it because some discussions that we've had, but it's part of this process. Part of that discussion is reviewing the cost to provide the service so we can justify that back to
To anybody.
the nation. Yeah, exactly.
To anybody, really. Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why the presentation is broke out the way it is. It's interesting. Your base service is firefighting. And then we also have equipment that's linked to that. Rescue truck's a perfect example, right? That truck goes up and down the highway. It might attend fire services, but the reason why we provide that service is because we have a fire hall and we have firefighters,
Yeah.
right? But we've broken out the costs to the best of our abilities to say this is what the cost of each of those specific services are. And these are the types of revenues we got. So that's why the question you asked Deputy Mayor Gerwing regarding the highway rescue component, we have it in a different area, even though we do receive a revenue because it's not linked to fires. It's linked to a dispatch by the province at a task number. But the intent of these presentations is to get into this type of dialogue and start having these conversations with council to get that direction. Right? Because this has never been changed for I shouldn't say never, not since I've been here or even previous CA, I don't think. So it's been in place for quite some time, like a lot of the other rates.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
No, thank you. Slide 12. Fire services are becoming increasingly complex and training intensive. Increased regulatory requirements and firefighter training standards. We have no mutual aid options due to our due to our location. Our paid on call recruitment and retention remains ongoing challenges. Emergency response demands continue to increase. Equipment and apparatus replacement require long-term planning. Wildfire response expectations continue to grow, and maintaining service levels depends on sustainable staffing and funding. Any questions on that section? I know, right? That was in 2020, what, 24?
I'll add this to piece, Mayor, as part of your question around was that a council direction in the past. The reason for bringing it, there's been a challenge in the past around council, especially the previous councils, even before last council, quite frankly, that there was always that focus on that industrial tax base. And the fact that a significant portion of the general tax levy can be picked up by that industrial tax levy base, which essentially helps relieve some of the pressures on taxpayers that receive the service, right?
Yeah, I'm so surprised that percentage is being paid for by taxpayers outside of the fire boundary.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. Okay.
And those have been some of the challenges and the reason why it's time to have those tough discussions, quite frankly, and this is the reason why we took the approach that we're taking is to kind of do the full education,
Yeah.
get under the hood of it, and then have those discussions just around, how sustainable is that, quite frankly, right?
Just to comment on, it's not just fire where we find ourselves in this situation, right? It's very many services.
Mm-hmm.
The cost is borne across all of the taxpayers, for various reasons, but. not
Everything
just
we
every-
do, there's a portion of it, just some more than others.
Yeah.
I remember years ago looking at water and nobody at that time had the appetite to make those changes.
Yeah, because with some of these services, there is truly a defined area. Whether you're getting water or not, that's pretty defined. Whether or not you're within the fire service district and it's the fire portion of the service that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it's different when it comes to road rescues and rescues outside of the fire, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of a different kettle of fish, but yeah, who pays for that is, I think we have to really start thinking about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're constantly looking at opportunities on how to generate revenue. And as Scott mentioned, the new fire services bylaw that we're working on, we're looking at changes there where we could bill, say, for a business or property where we respond, say, more than twice for an accidental fire alarm in a row
Mhm.
type of deal like that. So cost recovery there. We've been looking at some different ways we can do more cost recovery for highway rescues, cost recovery for firefighters doing training for other industries, stuff like that. So we're constantly looking at different ways how we can generate some revenue.
Hmm.
So
Counselor Simons, please.
And was just going to reference the service area and the signage. The service area, I know it excludes all the farmland just north of town. Almost all of McConaughey Creek has no, we actually have signs that say we're not in the fire district. And yet we have fire district going much farther than McConaughey, going both south and west. And I see it captures most of the residential, the rural residential and the rural industrial. And I get why that is. I'm not sure that I would say that the farmer world wants to have your protection, because then we don't have to ask for your permission either. There's that's the other, that's possibly why that exists. But the flip side of the same coin is that insurance is more expensive for our homes in the rural areas that don't have fire protection areas. So I'm not asking for anything, just making that this get in awareness of that out in the open. One thing that I found confusing, I always found it strange. Recently, when the signs went up to define where the boundaries are, the sign needs to be redesigned. The sign is it says entering or leaving NRRM in great big letters, and then in tiny little letters in the dark you can't read them. And then so you go by a sign that says leaving NRRM, and you find one along the Alaska Highway, you're leaving NRRM, you can't see the little letters unless if the weather's wrong, if the light's wrong, because tiny little letters that talk fire protection area. So I think it actually creates confusion to our messaging of our giant Northern Rockies regional municipality and how everyone's included in it, but you've got these strange signs that actually aren't clear. That's just an idea too. I challenge you to go out in the twilight or at night and see if that is true.
No, you're correct there. We did a lot of research on the distance it would take to get to do McConaughey Creek, and you're right, halfway, either like if you were to go to the west side or the east side entrances, halfway is no different than going to Grouse Trail.
Yeah.
Especially with the pumper tender we have and then the apparatus we have, we could easily do a lot of services out that way. We opened it up to, there was members of the public out there that wanted fire protection. That's why we only went so far, because they wanted us and to be in our response area.
Usually if it's expanded, typically it's petition, right? We did take, and then of course we did take a look, because the original fire protection area, I can't say why it was the distances it was, but it made no sense that some areas were in and yet 4 minutes from town we're out. So some areas did get petitioned. And then when we look at, we pick on McConaughey, the loop in particular, that was petitioned a couple of years ago. And we extended out past a point where once we got to the very large agricultural properties, you'll see that's where that bit of the cutoff is. Based on, I mean, we did it based on distance, and from a petition perspective, not everyone within that petition might be, it's because once you start getting out farther, you will possibly see you will see a reduction in your insurance rates, but the water supply piece is a component of your insurance rates also in terms of close proximity to hydrant, and proximity to fire hall, and then if you have a fire service too, right? So there's a bunch of factors.
And just a reminder too, that fire protection is where the boundaries are, but yet I know, like, I've called in a couple of different forest fires that were really close by and adjacent to, but on the north side of McConaughey where it's not in the fire protection, and as is really good and expected, the Northern Rockies fire is there right away because that's the interface with the community. And so it's not as though the fire department have a no-go zone in the McConaughey Road. And I'm sure that if there was a fire out there for a whole variety of reasons, they would be there in a heartbeat looking at it. It's not that we're really missing something.
So I'd like to comment on this a little bit too, because I know, since how we're talking about services and taxation, I know the province expects us to get rid of the rural tax zones. And this is one way that, you might be able to help justify that to some of those rural folks, is that, because you eliminate that, it brings them into I don't know exactly how we do it, but taxes go up, right? Because there's not that exemption. If people are seeing increases in taxes, they see increases in services. And there's one opportunity here, I think, to extend that service to those rural areas where the province expects us to get rid of those, rural tax zones because of the change from municipality to a regional municipality. Yeah, so there might be opportunity there.
Mhm.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody that some councils ago, it was, they made a conscious decision to provide the emergency medical responder training. So it wasn't always offered, but at the time, I don't know, it was 2 councils ago or 3, but that was a conscious decision of the council of the day to absorb those costs in direct response to lack of services from other partners.
Even during the Parker Lake fire, we spent a lot of time out in McConaughey Creek, the whole loop.
Yeah,
There was locations and different scenarios where BC Wildfire wouldn't be able to act on that type of fire. So we took over a lot of those responsibilities as well as in town, but we had 3 task force, so it was easy for us to mitigate and stuff like that. So, yeah,
so would
there-
that be at the request of the wildfire service?
yeah,
you
that was
did
at the request of
Right.
BC Wildfire. There are protocols and procedures in place where if a resident, say of McConaughey Creek, phoned for assistance for the fire department and gave us, reasons why they need us to get there, there is a policy and procedure where I would contact Scott and we would discuss it. And if we had availability in the manpower, we could send, say, 3 to 4 firefighters out there with an incident commander to, help mitigate some things.
Mhm.
It happened at Radar Crescent quite a few years ago. We got called for a structure fire. We didn't know the location of the fire until we arrived on scene. We realized it's out of our fire protection area. Same thing. I had to phone Scott, ask for permission for our services to be out there. We didn't do a lot of fighting the fire, but we did protect their home. And now they are in the fire protection area. So that's how that service grew in that area. So,
The reason why that process is there and the burden is on the shoulders of the CAO comes on the municipal liability, right? From a fire protection area specific is if a fire department is acting outside of their zone, it needs to be extremely intentional and also be considered what potential repercussions could be, right? So to be able to justify the actions, because if you're operating outside your zone from a fire perspective and a fire was to pop up in community in the fire protection area and you were delayed in that response, you risk a potential liable situation. Right?
And is that authority given to the CAO through bylaw? Yeah, the only reason I'm asking, because when I was in Taylor, it was the mayor that they called, not the CAO, sorry. So I'm just wondering if it's set up in bylaws that's the way it works.
Delegation authority, I think.
Delegation authority?
Or maybe the fire services.
Thank you.
yeah, so I couldn't make that decision, but once I contact Scott and we discuss, we've
Between the
done
two of
it
you.
quite a bit of times over the last few years to mitigate bigger incidents from occurring.
Yeah, it makes sense. And do we have the capability of looking after something else, right, at the same time? So
Yeah.
that's a discussion I'm sure you have, so.
And that's a big part of the decision making is if we send a crew and an engine, how are we protected in town?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just want to make a comment too, so which kind of justifies having a certain portion of the funding coming out of the general
Mhm.
tax levy, right? Because we do respond to areas that we currently don't officially provide fire protection to, right? Okay, thanks.
Officially.
Did I say?
No, yeah.
I did, right?
Any other questions on the fire operations side? Okay, we're going to move to slide 14. We're going to get into the first responder program. So the first responder program is a partnership between Northern Rockies Fire Rescue and BC Emergency Health Services. Its purpose is to ensure trained emergency responders can begin patient care as quickly as possible while an ambulance is responding. Although the ambulance service is a provincial responsibility, community expectations and emergency response realities have resulted in municipalities increasingly providing first responder support to bridge the gaps until BC EHS arrives. Slide 15, the first responder program. So when a serious medical emergency is reported through 911, BCHS may request the fire department's first responders to attend and begin patient care. So we respond to purple calls, which are calls that are immediately life-threatening. So an example of that would be a cardiac arrest, respiratory arrest. That's the highest priority response. So any purple calls, BC ambulance responds, we respond. The next set of calls that we do respond to are red calls. They're immediately life-threatening or time critical. An example that would be somebody having chest pain, stroke symptoms. They're very urgent calls, so we would go respond code 3 with BC EHS as well. We do respond to orange calls when BC EHS is going to be delayed for a little bit. So they're the urgent, potentially serious calls. They're not immediately life-threatening, but they do require attention fairly quick. So there'll be like abdominal pain or serious injury calls. We do respond to with BCHS on those calls. Then they have the yellow calls that they respond to. We don't attend these calls unless BCEHS requests us because their ambulance is going to be delayed for a while. They're the non-urgent calls. They're not life-threatening, but somebody needs medical attention. They have a broken leg or a broken foot or something like that, just minor injuries. So we will go to those calls if they are delayed.
It's not minor if you're like broken bones.
Walk it off. Right?
Somebody can put you in a wheelbarrow. Take you to the hospital.
And then they have green calls. They're very low, non-urgent, maybe treatable on scene or referred. An example of that would be a minor illness or minor cuts. We normally don't ever go to those calls, but we have noticed during hospital diversions, our responders might end up attending one of those calls, but we rarely ever go to them. There's probably been a handful of times in the last 4 or 5 years where hospitals gone on diversion, ambulance is tied up at another call, and we would leave that scene and go check on another patient just to see what type of, how much medical attention they need right away. So,
But it's maybe just a couple of guys. It's not a whole unit heading.
oh no,
Yeah.
so for medical calls, during the day, so like today, for an example, there's 2 firefighters working and there's the deputy fire chief. So today we could easily attend 3 medical calls and occur 0 overtime because the firefighters go, the chief officer will go. So we had 3 medical calls at the same time. We could easily mitigate 3 medical calls without any overtime. At nighttime, what happens is you have 1 firefighter on duty. We have 1 firefighter on standby. So when a medical call comes in, they will attend those calls. So we only send 2 to 3 people at a medical call.
Right.
Not the whole department.
Yeah, or, okay.
Our firefighters who participate in this program are trained to the emergency medical responder level, so EMR level, and that's what council decided quite a few years ago, that we would go from first responder level 3 to an EMR where we can do a higher level of service, providing medical service for our residents. This training provides them with the knowledge and skills to assess patients, provide life safety interventions, administer oxygen therapy, perform CPR, AED operations, control bleeding, and manage medical emergencies until BCEHS paramedics arrive. Having EMR trained firefighters responding from the fire hall often allows medical care to begin sooner, particularly in a rural and remote community where the ambulance service may be committed to another call. So if BCHS is on 1 call and a second call comes in, a lot of times they release us from the scene and we go attend that call and start doing the medical interventions until they are freed up to attend that call. The first responder program allows the municipality to provide a higher level of emergency medical support through our partnership with BCHS and the EMR training of our firefighters that we receive. We are able to deliver critical patient care during most important minutes of emergency. Medical calls represent one of the largest portions of our annual call volume. making the EMR training one of the most important certifications of our firefighters to maintain. Because this service is delivered in partnership with BCEHS, there are specific training requirements, response standards, and service levels we must maintain, which are outlined in the next slide. So we need to, first responder program operates under established medical response standards and is designed to provide immediate care until BC Emergency Health Services arrives and assumes patient care. This service is delivered in partnership, like I said, with BC Emergency Health Services. Our role is to support the provincial ambulance service by providing early medical intervention and patient care. We are part of the emergency medical system. We provide care until BCEHS arrives, and we assist paramedics once they are on scene. This service is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And as I say, it can be subject to firefighter availability and concurrent emergency incidents. So like I said earlier, today we could handle 3 different medical calls at the same time with the staff that's on shift. And at nights, we would call in 1 person on overtime. So
Go ahead.
Once you are called out to attend the scene, are you required to stay at that scene until BC Emergency Health Services releases you?
So once a call comes in and we arrive on scene, we can't leave that patient until BCS arrives on scene and take over the call. So
once they take over the call, though, you can.
we
depart.
can leave if they don't require further assistance. So if we run a CPR call or a cardiac arrest call, we're most likely on scene for the entire call till the patient is at the emergency room. And there are a lot of times that we do CPR and life interventions, saving interventions inside the emergency room with nurses and doctors and stuff. So depending on the call, if it's a minor call, BCHS arrives on scene. If they don't require assistance, they release us and we clear scene.
So then that could require overtime. And that, do we get any funds reimbursed, or that's entirely taxpayer supported?
So for us to run the first responder program with BCHS, it is fully tax. So the tax is all taxpayers pay for that service. We do get soft supplies replaced. So if we used AED pads or we use medical equipment on that call, there is a list of what they will replace for us. And it's I can't remember the list off the top of my head, but they replace all airways we use, AED pads that we use, minor soft supplies they will replace.
So may I?
Go ahead.
So I'm just wondering too, the timing. So once fire rescue attends the call and then BC Emergency Health Services has a delay, obviously you stay with that patient, which then can incur costs in terms of having to call in, paid on call, overtime. Does that happen very often where we are waiting for paramedics to arrive?
During the day, Monday to Friday, 8 to 4 or even 8 till 7. 8 to 7, there's usually 2 members on duty. So medical calls don't incur any overtime during Monday to Friday, 8 to 4. It'll be evenings and weekends when there's only 1 firefighter on duty. Then they call in their standby guy, which would incur that person getting overtime.
Question, sorry if I may follow up. Does that happen very often where we are on scene waiting and incurring?
On scene waiting, I would have to look at the stats because we have all that static and we have
Okay.
those exact numbers, so I can get those numbers for council
Yes,
for
I
sure.
appreciate that.
It does, for us, waiting on scene happens maybe once or twice a week, if that. And it's not normally an hour. It'll be like 5-10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think the thing to keep in mind though is anything that's outside a regular shift would be minimum call out times too. So it doesn't really make a difference how long the firefighter is on scene. It's a minimum call out time. So there are costs. It is fairly regular routine to incur costs to you, James.
I don't know.
to provide that service outside of our typical, where we have more staffing during the day. And to answer your other question, outside those soft supplies, those supplies, there's no financial assistance or anything that's reimbursable that we receive to provide them. What's that? It's a volunteer program.
So we don't have to provide that service to the province, but then it's the service to the residents. It's like there's two different things, right? It's voluntary to the province,
Yes.
but residents, I think, expect it, right?
I think the reality is, and it's an issue in lots of local governments, is that it's a provincial service that's being provided. The gap is being provided by the local governments, in terms of fire rescue is very common, right?
Yeah.
And because, I mean, because I'm not running again, I don't want to lose track of all of this, but it was in response to the service not being at an acceptable level. So we need, when we're advocating,
Ambulance service.
exactly.
Okay.
So when we are advocating to the province, this is very important information for all of us to know and have, right? Because like we just didn't choose to spend these extra dollars. It was in direct response
Yes.
to a service that wasn't meeting the needs of the resident.
And similar to the challenges that we have on the fire rescue side, even if, I mean, there's the service that's provided provincially in terms of what the standard is. But even the standard is challenged at times given the rural area. I mean, if there's a call up highway and a truck's up highway to deal with an ambulance call, a second call that comes in, it occurred here only, well, one of our employees had broke her leg and it took a while for ambulance to show up. Fire was working with ambulance because they had multiple calls, and in other jurisdictions, there's the opportunity to shift resources from a mutual aid perspective. We just don't have that option here. Our resources, all resources from emergency services perspective can be overwhelmed quite quickly depending on the incident, right?
So last Wednesday, I'll give you an example. Last Wednesday, we were at a medical call. We called BCHS. They were probably an hour delayed. That same time, we had a second medical call with, we had two patients of that one, and ambulance was delayed. They were doing a patient transport, I believe, to the hospital, and no other car was available. So that happens probably once or twice a month, that they're running a call and we're doing the other calls for them until they can catch up to their call volume.
So, yeah, and I mean, none of that, like the province doesn't understand or like know any of that, right? Like, not that I don't think we should be doing that. Absolutely think that we should be doing it, but I'm wondering too, would like your perspective on, I know like fire rescue can't transport currently. So would it make a difference if we had our first responders trained to a level where they could transport to the hospital and then get released and then get back to work? Because currently, if you respond to a call, you have to stay there till you're released by emergency services. If they are an hour delayed, then we're there. But if it was something that our first responders could then transport to the appropriate medical facility, that would then release our responders, right?
Yeah. We would just need a vehicle to be able to transport in, which our rescue truck, we could transport under an emergency. That'll be basically more talks with the province, I believe, on what the requirements would be for us to be able to transport. I mean, we all have the licensing, we would just need the transport endorsement, so. And then the okay to provide that service, I'm not sure how that would work exactly.
So if are you, go ahead.
Yeah, you go ahead. No,
I would just say, so if our fire department wasn't trained for emergency response, what would the ambulance do? If they were busy and you were already on them call, what would our BC ambulance services do if our fire department couldn't help? What would they be doing?
Yeah, that basically your patient will be waiting for an available ambulance.
So they could be waiting an hour delay while they're doing their other works, right? So this is why it was super important to our council in the past to upscale it.
The mayor made the comment. I mean, the reality is it's a provincial service that the standard is quite low, and the consequence of that ones that get impacted is the patient, which in this case is the resident, right? And
It would be interesting to do a cost comparison to how much is lost in terms of being held at a scene. So that costs X amount of dollars. And, how much does a vehicle cost? In big scheme of things, to
Yep.
do that cost analysis, I think would be really.
I have some cost numbers once we get into the slides there for sure. Some, yep.
But
Thank
the
you.
reality of providing the service mitigates the need for BCEHS to provide the service.
I did not say it. There are some fire halls that do their own.
Yeah, one of the best programs actually in the province is Kitimat.
Yeah.
Their ambulance fire, and yeah, they run a really, really, really well program.
Taking care of their own.
And there's no ambulance service in the community then?
It's Kitimat Fire. They do this service for BCHS under contract.
So that's how they would work with the union to let that happen.
Yeah. So the firefighters are all paramedic trained and firefighters, and the ambulance service provides the cars, so the ambulances and all the medical equipment and stuff like that, and maybe a certain part of the wage, but they do pay for that service quite a bit.
Because we pay for so much of it now.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
the next step is what? Would we be saving money or I don't know. It's just an interesting thought to look into for the future. People running again.
Maintaining the service requires specialized medical equipment, ongoing inspections, ongoing training, and compliance with established medical response standards. Some of the equipment we carry are AEDs, oxygen equipment, trauma kits, medical supplies, record keeping and quality assurance requirements. We need to follow the Emergency Health Services Act, the BC Gunshot Act, Mental Health Act, Good Samaritan Act, Coroners Act, and National Fire Protection Association. So NFPA. The first responder program significantly enhances emergency medical coverage within the community by ensuring EMR trained firefighters can begin patient care during the critical first minutes of an emergency. In many cases, our firefighters can arrive and begin treatment before an ambulance reaches the scene. The first few minutes can take a significant difference in the patient's outcomes, particularly during cardiac or respiratory or trauma-related emergencies. Slide 17, our response area. So just like our fire protection area, we have a medical response area that we respond to. So we just go past 317. There's a private property just past that. We attend that place. We do all the McConaughey Creek, all of the airport, and out past Fort Nelson First Nations, and we go all the way down to Jackfish Regional Park, Andy Bailey Park. So that's our first responder area that we have a written agreement with the province. We will attend those calls with them in those areas. Because ambulance can be delayed up to an hour, we haven't never had to do it yet, but we constantly get asked if ever required, can we send 2 firefighters in a vehicle to go to Prophet River for a cardiac arrest call if the ambulance is going to be delayed or towed river like that. So that would be one of those areas I would get a hold of Scott and say, this is what we have. Ambulance is going to be delayed for an hour. Can I send 2 firefighters in a pickup truck to start medical attention? So we've never had to do it, but we've been asked those questions quite a bit throughout the years. So.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the service area.
Yep.
So I see it goes across the river quite a ways, that little square up to the right-hand edge. So is that taking in?
That's all First Nations land, so I bet you that includes
Old
Old Fort in that area. There's a lot of hunting cabins.
Yeah, and
cabins
those
stuff in
cabins
that area.
along the road out there. Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you.
We've never had to do a medical call out there, but
So how do you deal with calls that come from some of these areas, like where I live, where no one has an address? Or we don't have addresses that you can find online.
Next door to Bobby Joe.
Hmm?
Next door.
Next door to Bobby
We-
Joe, yeah.
Yeah, we have responded to, not a lot, but a few medical calls out there, and we always, we try to locate it on the map, and then we pull into the first house we see and we say, hey, do you know where such and such
Yeah.
lives?
That's probably a good idea.
Go to the
yeah.
driveway at 17.5 kilometer and ask. Yeah. Yeah.
It is a requirement when you're on duty or you have the time to patrol your response area. So there are times you'll see like my truck out in that location because we need to constantly keep an understanding where our residents are. So when we're doing that, we're keeping mental note and taking notes. And then when our members respond to that area, we go with the radio and say, turn left here or turn right here or whatever like that. So.
You're doing way better than the census people.
Yeah. So who benefit from this is residents within the first responder service area, visitors and the traveling public, patients requiring emergency medical assistance, BC ambulance, and the RCMP through emergency response support. Some indirect benefits are the overall community safety and resilience, families and caretakers during emergency medical emergencies, reduce impacts from delayed emergency medical response, and improved emergency coordination within the region. Slide 18, this is it's funded through general tax. We have no funding or support from the province other than just the very soft materials that they will replace. Some primary cost estimated to run medical calls with BCHS. So in 2024, we estimated we spent $202,000 for that service. And 2025, we've spent around 180,000 to provide that service. And when I made these notes a month or 2 months ago, we were at 60,000 year to date to run the emergency first responder program. So I can give you numbers and call amounts if you want. I meant in 2024, we did 353 medical calls with BCHS, which was 836 personnel hours at those calls. In 2025, we did 310 medical calls. That was 757 personnel hours on those calls. And 2026 to date, when I made up these notes, we were at 95. We're well over 100 now. And we were at 274 personnel hours for those calls year to date.
Mhm.
Does our first responders get called at all if someone were to hit like the rescue me on their Zoleo or their InReach device? Does that interface with us at all?
So last week's, or was it last week's or this week's? The last MVI we went to down the highway, we had a direct phone call through to the fire hall at the 774-222 number for a resident on scene to report that accident, the truck rollover. At the same time, 911 was notified of a cell phone impact. So the smartphone did the SOS thing, and they phoned 911 and dispatched us as well. So there are times, it doesn't happen a lot, but there's the odd time somebody leaves their phone on the tailboard of their vehicle, drives away, and it hits the road. We get a crash detection for that. So it happens every now and then. So as technology increases, yeah, we do get those calls.
So that registers as a false alarm?
It'll be a road rescue canceled call. So we would take the dispatch information, we would respond up the highway with our crews and rescue, and hopefully we can nail down somebody, a passerby or driver by. We go on LAD 1 a lot and talk to the truck drivers to see if they've seen anything up ahead. And a lot of times, if the first responding agency, once they arrive, they'll stand down other responding agencies if the call's false. So we just called it a canceled rescue call for those ones.
Pick up the phone off the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Slide 19, the first responder and the general tax levy, you can see here. Slide 20. The first responder services have evolved significantly and now play a critical role in supporting emergency medical response within the community. As you can see, the impacts, as I explained through the personnel hours there, last 3 years, what we were at. Our call volume is increasing year to year for medical calls. The service area was established in the 90s with the province, so I don't have very much history why they choose that response area. It's always been that way since I joined the department. So, and we just renewed our last agreement last year with the province. So, and we did nail down and make it a little more strict of what we will attend, and we made sure that they gave us a supply list of soft materials that they will supply. Whereas before it was hit and miss depending who was working on the ambulance, if we got those materials or not. Now it's in a written agreement that they will replace, say, abdominal pads or AD pads and stuff like that. So oxygen masks. I mean, a bag valve mask is like $500. Like this medical equipment is expensive stuff. So there's a lot of the medical supplies they won't replace for us, but we'll just keep working on that. They will replace that equipment when we use it at their calls. So.
Okay.
I noticed on this slide that there's recruitment and retention challenges for emergency responders. That's on our end where you're having difficulty.
So that is more or less when it comes to our paid on call ranks as well, having a full paid on call group backing up our career staff. Until we just did this last hire, it's always been an issue is recruiting paid on calls. We have no problem recruiting career members. Everybody wants to be a career firefighter, so it's easy to fill those numbers. It's our paid on call ranks. And like I said, up until our last hire, we were only getting maybe 3 people apply, and then we would lose 2 and we keep 1. But this time we've had 11 apply and we've kept 10 so far. So recruitment and retention, I'm hoping is behind us now because we built such a good rapport with the high school students that once they turn 18 and 19, they want to join our department. So,
Do you feel that was the biggest draw? Was hitting the high schools, or did you guys change anything else?
as for public relations, we really haven't changed much. We're always out in the public. We're always trying to physically recruit people. I want to say it was word of mouth from people we've hired over the years, recruiting their friends and stuff like that. So
It's good info to know. Thank
I
you.
believe once they join the department, they get involved in the department and they see that the amount of training they're doing, how professional they get the exact same training qualifications here they would any fire department in North America. So I think it opens up a lot of their eyes and they're like, oh, my friend will enjoy doing this. So it's a lot of word by mouth.
You know, you do a really good job at the trade show. You notice though that the culture of it is what shows up at the trade show. It's the culture of it, and the culture is what draws the people in. And I think you're on the right track for that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I like to, I mean, I think I look at the focus of the culture.
Yeah.
And the work that's been done at the department. It's with the integration of the POCs, right? I think you go back a number of years and there was a definite line drawn between the career staff and the POCs. In terms of equipment or training or how they were treated or whatnot. And right now it's, you might be part of an IFF and a career staffer, or you might be a POC. But after that, everyone's the same in that family today. And I think that makes a big difference. And it doesn't happen overnight, but you can definitely see, and it's continued improvement to recognize that, because quite frankly, I mean, we definitely depend on the career staff. But with a composite fire department, we can only get those numbers and do provide the service that we provide with those POCs and the training they have, and they get the exact same training. Right?
Mhm.
I'm cognizant of the time.
I was just going to talk about that myself.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I was just going to ask. I mean, we're at a stop here in terms of a part of the presentation, because we're only on slide 21 or 54.
Yeah,
And I know.
yeah,
there's
we're only
more.
halfway through not even halfway through the presentation.
So it's a good place if council wishes that we could take a pause if you want, and then we can reconvene once we confirm another date, because I know council has some conversations that they were.
Yeah, so I was just wondering is there anybody hard stop at 2? Or, okay,
Yeah, I have a bit of a hard stop at about 2:30-ish.
okay, so then we should stop here then, yeah.
Any questions on the first responder part at all that I didn't answer? Or?
No.
Sweet.
I hope it helps you're getting new firefighters because we have a new fire hall. I hope that helps a little bit.
Maybe, who knows? Yeah, no.
I'm curious with having the evac so recent too, if that sparked some interest with people wanting to get more involved too.
I think for a few, it did spark the interest because they all left. They all heard everything that was happening, what we were working with. So that did definitely spark the interest. What I've noticed a lot is the younger generation. We have probably 8 of them now. They work with us or they work with BC Wildfire.
Yeah.
They're locals of Fort Nelson, but they work with BC Wildfire. So we almost have a full unit crew of Fort Nelson firefighters. So, which is unbelievable. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good, okay, well, we'll pause here then and I guess hold this committee of the whole meeting till the next time we can get together and talk about these service reviews, so. Good, we'll adjourn for the meantime, adjourn for the meantime.